Welcome back to The Explainer. Let's just dive right in, shall we? Today, we're exploring the absolutely fascinating neuroscience behind Kanna. It's a South African plant with a pharmaceutical profile that is frankly blowing researchers' minds right now. We're going to break down exactly how it rewires the brain, separate the online wellness hype from the hard clinical data, and cover the safety profile that everyone absolutely needs to know.
So what if I told you an ancient succulent held a rare secret to modern brain chemistry? Honestly, it sounds like the premise of a sci-fi novel, right? But it's actually grounded in real, hard pharmacology. We're talking about a botanical use for millennia that possesses a dual-action mechanism that's almost completely missing from our modern pharmacy shelves.
Section 1. The Succulent of the Karoo. Our story actually starts in the sun-baked South African Karoo. This is the natural habitat of the Sceletium tortuosum plant. Now, the Khoisan people, who are indigenous herders and hunter-gatherers in the region, they've utilized this plant for a staggering 3,000 years. To put that into perspective, the very first European written record of this plant didn't pop up until 1662. Turns out traditional knowledge had a pretty massive head start on modern scientific journals.
And they didn't just yank this succulent out of the dirt and eat it raw. No, they developed a really specific preparation called kougoed, which translates roughly to something to chew. The harvested kanna is bruised, sealed up, and fermented in the harsh sun for several days. This fermentation process actually alters the plant's alkaloid mix and neutralizes irritants. Historically, kougoed was chewed to lift the mood, ease social distress, and even blunt hunger and thirst on those long, exhausting journeys.
Section 2. A rare dual mechanism.
Well, modern lab science perfectly explains those historical benefits. Kanna contains over 25 different alkaloids, but the psychoactive heavy lifting, that's done by 4 specific molecules. In the standardized extract known as Zembrin, it breaks down to roughly 48% mesembrenone, 32% mesembrenol, 13% mesembrine, and 7% mesembranol. This specific profile is precision-crafted to lean heavily on the enzyme-inhibiting mesembrenone, rather than just maxing out the strongest serotonin blocker. It's like a highly intentional chemical cord.
But the absolutely crucial piece of this puzzle is the potency of its primary mechanism. Mesembrin boasts a binding affinity of just 1.4 nanomolar. Okay, in plain English, that means it is an intensely potent blocker of the serotonin-transporter, or SERT. It literally stops the mechanism that clears serotonin from the synapse, leaving way more of it available. And by the way, that is the exact same target hit by standard SSRI antidepressants.
But here's where things get really wild, and where Kanna completely diverges from your standard pharmacy shelf to trigger its rare dual mechanism. While it blocks serotonin reuptake, it simultaneously inhibits an enzyme called PDE4. Inhibiting PDE4 causes a messenger molecule called cAMP to rapidly accumulate inside the cell. That buildup fires off the downstream cREB signaling pathway. So why does this matter to us? Because cREB signaling is basically the biological master switch for neuroplasticity. It's how your brain adapts, learns, and physically shores up your mood and memory.
And this dual action makes a massive practical difference. Classic SSRIs notoriously require 2 to 6 weeks to build up a therapeutic effect in your brain. Kanna, it produces acute subjective effects within just an hour. It is highly plausible that this incredibly rapid onset is driven precisely by that fast-acting PDE4 cAMP signaling route we just talked about.
Section 3. Calming the brain's threat circuitry.
So, what actually happens when we put human beings into an fMRI scanner to watch this chemistry in real time? In a double-blind study by Terberg and colleagues, participants were given a single 25 milligram dose of Zembrin, and the imaging showed that this single dose instantly attenuated or dampened the reactivity of the amygdala when subjects were shown fearful faces. It also physically reduced the neural coupling between the amygdala and the hypothalamus. We are quite literally watching the brain's threat circuitry being quieted down.
Section 4. The honest clinical evidence.
All right, time to drop the wellness hype for a second. The reality of the clinical data is highly mixed. On the promising side, we have that amygdala dampening, we have a 2013 study showing it was safe and well tolerated over 3 months, and a 2014 study showing improved executive function in older adults. But the counterweight is heavy. A 2020 study using laboratory stressors was only partially positive. And crucially, a massive 2023 meta-analysis found absolutely no statistically significant benefit for anxiety over a placebo.
And why is that 2023 meta-analysis so vital for us to understand? Because it pooled a total of only 117 people across 4 trials. That is an incredibly small human evidence base. Cannabis definitely has a brilliant mechanism-backed signal for mood and cognition, but we have to be completely clear here. It has absolutely not been proven to treat any clinical anxiety or mood disorder yet.
Section 5. Safety and serotonin risks.
Because Kanna has very real mechanisms of action, it comes with real safety considerations. Combining it with prescription SSRIs, SNRIs, MAOIs, or honestly any other serotoninergic drug creates a theoretical risk of serotonin syndrome. That's a potentially dangerous state of serotonin excess in the brain. Now, to be completely accurate, there is no well-documented published case of serotonin syndrome from Kanna alone or even a Kanna SSRI combination. But the mechanism is real, meaning combining it requires strict medical guidance.
Now, as Kanna goes global, ecological safety becomes paramount. In a really fascinating conservation win, HG&H Pharmaceuticals, they're the makers of Zembrin, signed a benefit-sharing agreement with the South African Sand Council under the Nagoya Protocol. A share of the proceeds is routed directly to rural indigenous communities like Polshuk and Nurivier. And they rely strictly on cultivated plants rather than depleting the wild Karoo populations. It's honestly a brilliant blueprint for honoring indigenous traditional knowledge instead of just extracting it.
To bridge the gap between traditional wisdom and modern scientific scrutiny, we really have to look at it objectively. Kanna is neither the mood cure-all of the wellness market nor a substance to fear. It is a promising botanical with a highly distinctive brain mechanism and an evidence base that is still very much in its early chapters.
Which leaves us with this final kind of provocative thought. As modern science slowly catches up to 3,000 years of indigenous knowledge, what other rare pharmacological mechanisms might be hiding in plain sight, just waiting in the traditions of cultures around the world? The neuroscience of Kanna reminds us that the natural world still has secrets left to share, provided we have the patience to study them correctly. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll see you next time.